Morning, honorable members.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the meeting and request that colleagues must flag the agenda.
Recording in progress.
Honorable members, you're welcome to this meeting. I'll invite members and our guests and officials to observe a moment of silence for meditation or prayer. Thank you very much. Let me welcome everybody to the meeting and go to item number 3. Request that we adopt the agenda before the apologies. Can I get somebody to move for the adoption of the agenda?
I move, Chair. Masuta.
Honorable Masuta moved. Can I get the seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, can we then note the apologies to be accepted by the meeting?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members, and to our guest. Chairperson, I received an apology from the minister. She's not going to join the meeting today due to the cabinet meeting. The DM will join us later. She is attending the PC on social development this morning, but she will join us later. Mercy Flwagi is not well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who is the leader of the department? Who's leading the department?
So that DG will be leading the department, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take then the opportunity to welcome the DG and the team and hand it over to the DG to present or to get the responsible person to present the item number 4. DG.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Morning.
Good morning, members. Chair, I'm trying to locate the DG. Most of the colleagues in the building are battling with network. If members could bear with us just for a few more minutes.
Hello, Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
I just received a note from Dr. Kumalo. She's apologizing. She's not able to join the meeting today, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay. It's only Dr. Kumalo who has sent the apology, and Ms. Twai.
Yes, and Ms. Roy.
Okay.
Greetings, Chair. Once more, Chair, I did manage to get hold of the DG. He's still trying to join his battling, but he said it's going to take some few more minutes. He's going to join just now. Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I want to, with your permission and the permission of the members, my name is Ngaka Dumalisile DDG in the department chair. Chair, with your permission and the members of the portfolio committee, I wanted to make a suggestion because I see even HDA is not in the meeting and they are the ones who are supposed to assist us to take the members through the first item. Now, we do have colleagues from the department chair who are in the meeting, and if my proposal will be accepted, I would want to propose, Chair, for the interest of time, that we then start with the second item, which is the department's Q3 performance, so that whilst we wait for the DG and HDA to join the meeting and avoid keeping you waiting, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ngaka. Members, there is a proposal, but the agenda already has been adopted. Let me open it for you, members, if can I get guidance from yourself, members?
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Member.
I think I will agree with the proposal of DDG, but the HDA, they must explain why they are not on the meeting. The issue of the DG is understandable, is the issue of the connection of the network. But if we don't get any exactly what is the problem, why the HDA is not part of the meeting, it's not, I don't think it's fair, and they don't respect the committee. We must get a clear apology why they are not part of the meeting in time.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Masuta or Honorable Zeki, your mics are on. I don't know.
For progress, Chair.
My apologies, it was an error, Chair.
All right, thank you.
For
Honorable
progress, Chair. Let's agree, Chair, for progress, so that
yes,
we
thank
should
you very much.
move.
Thank you very much. Let's get the presenter for the Q3 to proceed. Who's presenting DDG Ngaka?
Thank you, Chairperson. We will request the Office of the DG to present. Chair, I see the DG has already joined the meeting as well. We will request the Office of the DG to present. The presentation was shared with Secretariat, and we will request, with your permission, Chair, that Secretariat should assist and flag the presentation so that we can take the members through. Thank you.
DG?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The presentation would be made by DDG Nanamhlongo, and I would request the indulgence of the Chair to allow her to present.
DDG Mhlongo?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to yourself and members. My apologies. I joined a bit late because there's another presentation that we had to do. Are we starting with the land or the
Quarter
performance?
three.
Quarter
Performance
three.
of, yeah.
I will then request, with your permission, Chair, that Mr. Mlanzeli takes us through the presentation.
Mr. Mlanjeni.
I see he's unmuted. I don't know whether he's got a technical glitches. If I can request that perhaps in the meantime, if Secretariat can assist us with the presentation, Chair.
Talk from you.
Chairperson, I think Mlanzeli has challenges. He's here with me. He'll present through my laptop. I think you can see there. It's fine.
You can just put it on the slide mode, please. Oh, we've lost the presentation.
Okay, Kolesa, please assist with flighting the presentation so that we can take the members through. Okay. A very good morning to you, Chair, members of the committee, DG, DG is present here. Apologies for the glitches. This morning we had IT problems, but you may proceed, Kolesa, to the next slide. We are essentially presenting before the portfolio committee the departmental Q3 performance. This, Chairperson, is the outline of the presentation, namely that will take you through the purpose of the presentation, the departmental budget structure, as well as the Q3 performance. And then we'll provide you, Chair, with an overview of our overall financial performance. And of course, our performance of the grants as at 31st December 2023. And then Chairperson will then touch on the areas that we have determined as a department, the areas that require improvement. And then lastly, we'll serve the committee with recommendations. You may proceed to the next slide. The next slide, Chairperson, is the slide that speaks to the purpose. Next slide, please, Koliswa.
Okay. Not moving. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Whilst Koliswa is struggling to get the presentation in motion, Chair, I will take it that members have copies of the presentation, and therefore I'll continue. This is the purpose slide. As already indicated, Chair, we are presenting the portfolio committee with the department's Q3 performance. The slide that Koliswa is on, Chairperson, is the budget structure of the department, namely that we've got 5 programs in the department, Chair. In the interest, I will not bore the committee with going through all the programs. You may proceed to the next slide, please, Koliswa. Here, Chair, is the slide where we talk to the actual performance of the department. Chairperson, as we have done in previous quarters, our categorization of our performance is still a twofold, namely green, which will then indicate that we have achieved that which we have planned for, and there is the supporting portfolio of evidence is there. Chairperson, the red would then imply that the target has not been achieved, equally so that we don't have the accompanying portfolio of evidence. You may go to the next slide, please, Koliswa. This slide, Chairperson, provides an overview of the department's overall performance. We are informing the portfolio committee that for the period under review, namely Q3, the department achieved a total of 88%, and whereas there was a shortfall of 12%. In the following slides, Chair, we give more of a detailed picture as to how we arrived at the 88% and the non-achievement of 12%. Next slide, please, Koliswa. So on slide 9, Chair, we have those the graphs that basically explain that as a department we had planned for a total of 33 targets, and from that 33 targets, Chairperson, we were, let's go one slide back, please, Koliswa. From the 33 targets, Chairperson, we were able to achieve 29. I think you've gone far ahead. The balance, the slide. The balance of 4 targets, Chairperson, are the ones that account for the areas of non-achievement. So that is how we arrived at the 88%. Next slide, please. Chairperson, on the next slide, we present the portfolio committee with a performance trend. The performance trend, Chair, accounts for the period of Q1, Q2, as well as the quarter under review, namely Q3. You will see, Chair, that as at Q1, we had achieved 87%, whereas in Q2, we stood at 86%, and at Q3, Chair, there was a slight improvement of 2%, which then took us to 88%. You may go to the next slide, please. Chairperson, we are now starting with the first program, which is administration. The very first target there that we are drawing the attention of the committee to is the one that relates to 100% statutory compliance with prescripts. Here, the statutory compliance that we're referring to, Chair, is the payment of invoices within 30 days. We are reporting, Chair, that there was basically one invoice, Chair, that we were not able to pay within the required 30 days. That is one invoice, Chair, out of more than 1,300 invoices that we had received, and that is basically what took our performance down in respect of that target. Still, Chairperson, on the following target, 100% implementation of the improved internal audit plan. Here, we're bringing to the attention of the committee that indeed that target was achieved, namely that there was 56% implementation of the approved internal audit plan. Let's proceed to the next target, Chair, which is the 100% execution of the. You are still on the same slide, please, Koliswa. The 100% execution of the approved anti-fraud and corruption implementation plan. Chair, from this plan, we are indicating that we only managed to implement 67% of that plan. The 33% is the area of non-achievement. And that 33%, Chair, emanates from 2 activities. The first one being the lifestyle review, and the second one being the anti-fraud and corruption awareness campaigns. And we're saying, Chair, that the shortfall there, or the reason for the non-achievement, was basically due to the high volume of the work that had to be processed during that quarter. That target, Chairperson, we can safely inform the members, has now been achieved in Q4. But of course, it was not achieved as at the end of Q3. Now, as we talk to the following target, which is this, the 75% implementation of the risk management implementation plan, Chairperson, that target was duly achieved. Next slide, please. On the next slide, Koliswa will talk about the 100% implementation of the human resource implementation plan, which was duly achieved. The following one, Chair, is the 75% of the implementation related to the ICT plan. That was also duly achieved, Chair. This is the third area, Chair, of non-achievement, which was the appointment of a service provider to help the department with the creating a digital transformation strategy as well as an implementation plan. This could not be achieved, Chairperson, owing to the fact that the the service provider had not been appointed, and we are informing the committee what we have done subsequent to that, Chair. We have had conversations with the SETA to assist us in developing the digital transformation strategy as well as the implementation plan. So what remains outstanding, Chair, is for us now to obtain SETA services in the fourth quarter. That's the quarter under review right now. Not under review, but the quarter that we're currently in. Chairperson, the following target that follows is the 75 implementation of the approved communication plan. That was also duly achieved, Chair. So expend too much time on that. The other two targets that you see, the Chair, relates to the draft human settlements grant frameworks. We can safely report to the committee that those frameworks are indeed in place. And then there was one report on the monitoring of set aside for designated groups. That's monitoring of the set aside for designated groups is based on two grants, Chair, which is the HSDG and the AUSDG. So that has been duly achieved. Chairperson, in the interest of time, we will try to lay emphasis on the areas that have not been achieved. So here we are reporting that these targets have been achieved, namely the quarterly assessment of the HSDG, the quarterly assessment of the IUPSG, as well as the quarterly assessment on the USDG, as well as the last one being the quarterly assessment in respect of the IUPSG. So those have been achieved. Okay, thanks. We are already on the next slide. Chairperson, these are also areas of improvement. I won't touch on all of them. Safe to say that the 2019-2024 MTSF has already been reviewed. That is an important target for purposes of our department to see how we have fared in implementing the 2019-2024 MTSF. The other one, the Chairperson, that I think I would touch on is where we had contracted for one report on monitoring the project as per approved business plans. These are the projects, Chairperson, that are contained in your business plans, and that has been duly achieved. So you may proceed to the next slide, please, Koliswa. On the next slide, Chairperson, I think we'll spend a little bit of time here. This is the fourth area of non-achievement. Here, Chairperson, we had planned to conduct an evaluation study on the performance of the Priority Human Settlements and Housing Development Areas program, right? We are saying that the draft evaluation study, Chair, we could not complete it during the quarter, owing to the fact that the consultation that we had to undertake with the service provider, that consultation, Chair, took much longer than what we had anticipated. And now we're saying that the lesson that we have drawn from that, Chairperson, is that in future, we should ensure that our planning includes consultation, and that consultation must start right at the beginning of the financial year. So, Chairperson, we are admitting as a department that we will then plan better for the achievement of this target. The following target, Chair, which is 14 intergovernmental relations programs, those IGR programs, Chairperson, have indeed been achieved. In fact, there's an overachievement there by 10. We are still on areas where the department has achieved, still under the branch informal settlements, upgrading and emergency housing. With their, Chairperson, we had planned for two targets, which was one assessment of the draft business plans that we received from provinces, and the other target was, of course, the monitoring of progress in relation to the upgrading of informal settlements in 9 provinces as well as 8 metros. Chairperson, we have achieved both those targets. Then under the program rental and social housing, Chairperson, we are indicating that I think here we had a total of, the targets are indicated there. So we had contracted for one report on the monitoring of the rental housing program, the monitoring of the CARU program. Those have been duly achieved, Chair. The other programs, Chairperson, that we also have been monitoring are contained under the branch or the program Affordable Housing. And those programs include the monitoring of the title deeds, monitoring of blocked projects across the 9 provinces, and of course, monitoring of our delivery of BNG housing units in all 9 provinces. And then related to that, Chairperson, we have also been monitoring the delivery of service sites, all of which, Chairperson, we can safely report have been achieved, still under the program Affordable Housing. The other areas of monitoring that we've been doing in provinces as well as metros, Chair, is monitoring the First Home Finance Program, the quarterly report on the number of job opportunities that we have created. I must say, you would have noted, perhaps, Chair, in previous quarters, we struggled with that target, but I think we're turning the corner. We have duly received the supporting performance information from provinces. So hence, we're saying that that target has been duly achieved. Chairperson, we're also indicating that we've continued to monitor the eradication of asbestos roofs, as well as the monitoring on the inhabitable mud houses. There, what provinces are doing, Chairperson, is basically to demolish those mud houses that have been declared unfit for human habitation, so that we then build proper, adequate housing for those people who have been either affected, let's say, let's say maybe the structures are old, or they have been duly declared as unfit. So, Chairperson, at this point, through yourself, I wish to pause and allow the CFO to take the portfolio committee through the financial performance areas of the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Honorable Chairperson, members, DG and colleagues, good morning. I will be presenting the financial performance and grants performance until the end of the slide. Colleagues, can you go to the next slide? So this is the revised budget under the year under review as at the 3rd quarter. The overall budget, Chair and members, is sitting at 31.7 billion, and as a department, we are sitting at 74%. The upper side is reflecting the programs that are on our APP that my colleague has spoken to. Program 1 is administration. We spent 71% because we know that administration has got 498 because it's a support for the core function of the department. Program 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the core functions of the department, whereby they are sitting between 94% and 54%. The reason for rental and social housing to be sitting at 54% is because of the last transfer to SHRA that was transferred in January. So when we come back to present the last quarter, we'll be showing probably 100% performance, because the 400 million relates to the transfer to the Social Housing and Regulatory Authority. The bottom part talks to the economic classification, whereby we are able to see the split between the transfers and subsidies, where our grants are sitting, which is 30 billion out of the 31.7, and the compensation of employees, we are sitting at 71%. Our goods and services are sitting at 61%, and the payments for capital assets, the reason why we are sitting and reflecting 9% is because that's where our emergency housing response is sitting at. Out of the 539 for capital assets, 523 million relates to the emergency housing response. I need to highlight, Chairperson, that there are commitments. You can see there is a column of commitments, even though we are sitting at 9%. There are TRUs that are on the ground that we have issued the service providers with appointment letters. They are on the ground erecting the TRUs within the province of KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape to respond to the disasters. This slide is taking out the transfers and subsidies, is giving us our operational budget that is enabling us as a department to do the day-to-day business, of which we are sitting at 65%. Can you go to the next slide? The next slide is giving now our transfers and the grants. It's giving us the transfers to provinces and the transfers to municipalities. And as of the third quarter, we were sitting at 85% for the transfers to the provinces, and we are sitting at 61% to the transfers to the municipalities. The reason why municipalities is reflecting a 61% is because the tranches that we transfer to municipalities are in three folds. Because our financial year is at March, the last tranche to municipalities, usually we transfer everything as of around the month of February. And the entities, the 480 million that I spoke about on the program is the one that suppose we have already transferred 418 to the Social Housing Regulatory Authority. And below is our departmental transfers, whereby we are reflecting an 87%. And I need to highlight that on the scholarship program, we are sitting at 74%, because I remember last year we had a challenge and underperformance on this program. But for this financial year under review, we are really improved on the scholarship program. The next slide. This is the slide that shows that for the 9 months that we are reporting cumulatively, from the 1st of April until the 31st of December, as a department, we have processed 4,451 invoices. And out of the 4,451, only one invoice during the month of December was not processed in time. And what we did, we went back and looked at what was the real issue regarding the late submission of processing the invoice. We picked up that the information, that the supporting information that was supposed to be part of the invoice was not submitted to finance for payment. And we know that December month was a short month because we had to close the office. But by the time we resumed the office, we were able to gather all the information. And I need to put on record that this invoice was subsequently paid. Even though it's paid after 30 days, we as a department, we have written to get guidance from the accounting officer on the steps that need to be taken, because we don't want this kind of behavior to go on. We need to process and pay all the invoices within 30 days. The next few slides are talking to the provincial performance on the grants. The first grant is the Human Settlement Development Grant, and we know that here we are already sitting in 9 months. We have color-coded so that we can show the different performance of the grants. Overall, we are sitting at 74%. However, we can see that Western Cape is the one that with a light rate, they were sitting at 56%. So it means that they were not doing very well, because ideally we would have expected everybody to be sitting on 75% or more than 70%. Hence, Free State and Gauteng, that we have put them on amber because they were slightly below the 70% mark. And the others that are sitting on dark red is because they were showing the signs of the over expenditure. And the reasons of the size of the over expenditure is the column that we have put as budget cuts. We know that during the year, there were mid-year budget cuts that were affected by the National Treasury. So National Treasury, they said to us, we need to reduce the Human Settlement Development Grant by 1.7 billion. So they expected us to utilize the allocation formula. But what we did as a department, we looked at the performance of the provinces and the criteria that we used. So when we look at the column, the 1.7 billion was shared amongst 6 provinces, whereas Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest were not affected because by that point in time, they were already doing very well when it comes to the financial performance on the grants. And we had a lot of meetings with National Treasury, but however, at the end, we agreed with National Treasury regarding the criteria for the 1.7 billion. However, what we did further was to look at the Western Cape because it was not doing very well. And with all of these provinces, there is a slide that I'm going to talk to that talks to the interventions. Let's go to the next slide on the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant. The overall performance of the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant is the next slide. It's not doing very well as well. I'm just waiting for the slide.
Not moving now.
Okay, whilst I'm waiting for the slides to move from Kolisa's side, I will talk on the presentation that I'm having this side. When we look on the performance of the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant, we can see that the only province that was sitting on green is Northern Cape, whereas most of the provinces are sitting on the light red. The light red, we haven't moved, yes. So most of the provinces are sitting on the light red. The light red means that all of these provinces are sitting below 70%. So with 9 months to spend, so you can see that these provinces were not doing very well when it comes to the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant. And the next slide talks to the interventions. What is it that we had to do? We started by, when we dealt with the provinces, we looked at all the provinces that were sitting under red, that were reflecting red. We requested them to bring the recovery plans, to come and discuss and inform us what is it that they're going to do differently to turn the situation around. Because what we basically did, and we looked at the performances of the prior years, and we agreed that because this year we have already lost 1.7 billion from the HSDG and 533, close to 2 billion from the provincial allocations, we don't want to find our situation in a situation whereby we will be losing these grants back to the fiscus. So we requested the provinces to submit the recovery plans. Their recovery plans were analyzed from the technical MINMEC point of view, and we had a MINMEC. From the MINMEC that we had around October, it was resolved that there are going to be separate discussions again to look at the recovery plans with the 101 bilaterals between our Honorable Minister and the MECs of the affected provinces. And those bilaterals, they did indeed take place, and it was resolved that when you look at the HSDG, because of the recovery plan that was put by the Western Cape, and there is a couple of issues that were raised from the recovery plan of the Western Cape province. We know that Western Cape province, the Department of Human Settlements, is no longer a standalone department. It was absorbed by the Department of Infrastructure. It is a branch, and the province, when they submitted the recovery plan, they did indicate that because of these changes that are major, they are impacting on the performance of the province when it comes to the Human Settlements Development Grant. Hence, from the bilaterals that were held and the recovery plan, it was agreed, and we requested National Treasury that maybe instead of losing the funds back to the fiscus, we reallocate 250 million from the Western Cape province and look at all the other provinces that were indicating the pressures. One of them is the Limpopo province. And Treasury, on the 16th of February, they have gazetted the shift of 250 million from the Western Cape to the Limpopo province. Now, I've spoken about those provinces now that were over, that showed the signs of funding pressures, which is Limpopo, Northwest, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga provinces. Now, the interventions that we did, we looked at the performances of the two grants, and then we agreed that we need to look at the projects that can be implemented using the other grants. But even we had to do that, having said that, we had to look at what are the outputs of the other grants that can absorb the other projects that are sitting, so that we can reprioritize and move certain projects from the HSDG, because we needed to balance the scenario. Hence, at the end of the day, Northwest and Mpumalanga, they were able to absorb that. However, with Northwest Province, when we went to the MINMEC, they were sitting at 65%. There was a sharp increase reflecting 95%. We had to go back and do a due diligence on what actually happened within the 2 months. And we came to understand that there were a lot of the block projects that the province had to go and deal with them. Then when it comes to Northern Cape, we know that because they had an approval of the pledging and they will be receiving 600 million from the DBSA. So for them, we did not reallocate additional funding because they are going to receive additional 600 million from DBSA that was approved to deal with the HSDG and the delivery of the 2,500 sites. And then Limpopo is the only province that received additional funding from the Western Cape. The next 2 slides, they're talking about the performance of the municipalities as well. When we look at the municipalities, because December is there, they are already sitting on the 6 months. We looked at those that are sitting above 40% or 45%. Only Buffalo City, they were sitting at 54%. And all of the metros on the USDG, they're sitting below 40%. The next slide as well is giving us the performance of the metropolitan municipalities on the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant. And on this slide, the city of Cape Town is the one that is sitting as green, 51.8, and all the other metros are sitting below. We did the same exercises again. We went back and looked at the performance of the metros. We had a special MINMEC that dealt with the 3-year trends and the performance of the metros. And after a thorough analysis, because we requested the metros to come and present what are their challenges and what is it that we need to do differently, because we can see as well, these two, the USDG and the ISUPG, they were also affected by the budget cuts. And we did agree with the metros that as a sector, we have lost money back to the fiscus from the USDG for the midterm budget, as well as the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant. We agreed that we don't want to lose the funds back to the fiscus. Even if we don't want to do that, we need to come up with the recovery plan that will be showing that we need to turn the situations around. All the metros, they brought their recovery plans, they were analyzed, and some of them, even though they were not convincing, we had to have a special MINMEC to deal with the performance trends. We look at how much we have lost back to the fiscus. And as a national department and through that MINMEC, we agreed that the stopping and reallocation is not a solution, because the metros are basically that's where the service delivery issues are at. Hence, the first advice, we went back and said, as metros, let us look at the performing projects so that we can move the funds from the projects that are not performing to the performing projects. And most of the metros that were presenting their recovery plan, they did acknowledge that we don't have to move funds. We will move allocation from performing projects to the projects that were not performing as well. And one of the options that we agreed with was to say that we are not doing very well. Maybe we should consider the conversion. What does conversion mean? Conversion means that as a national department or as a transferring officer, we can approach National Treasury after we have discussed with the receiving officers of a Schedule 5B. A Schedule 5B is the Informal Settlements Upgrading Partnership Grant, to convert it from a Schedule 5 to a Schedule 6. But however, the Act says if it is satisfied that the conversion shall prevent the under expenditure or the conversion will improve the level of the service delivery. And B says if the affected national or provincial has demonstrated the capacity to implement the project. And if there is a history of poor performance in the previous 2 financial years for the relevant allocation to the receiving office. As I said earlier on that the MINMEC was looking at the 3-year trends on the performance of the metropolitan municipalities. And we had agreed that we don't want to be doing the stopping and the reallocations. We don't want to move funds. Hence, we looked at that performance to say, maybe the other option that we can look at is the appointment of the implementing agent to implement projects on behalf of these metros. What we mean is we are not going to take the allocation out of these metropolitan municipalities, because when we looked at the challenges that were agreed by the sector, one of them is the political instability, and one of them is the capacity and the procurement. So hence we ended up putting, next slide, the putting all this to National Treasury to request the National Treasury that how about looking at the conversion as a next option. However, I need to put on record that National Treasury, from their own discretion, they went ahead and issued the letters to all of the metropolitan municipalities except Buffalo City to an intention of stopping and reallocation. There were a couple of information that National Treasury needed, so we are still waiting for that process to conclude, so that as National Department we can have a discussion with National Treasury on the way forward to improve the performance of the metros. Our areas of improvement, can we go back? Our areas of improvement as a National Department, we are saying that as a National Department, we will only, because we looked at what is it that is hindering us to go and perform, what is hindering the provinces and the metros. We looked at the project implementation, and then we agreed that what we are going to do going forward is to ensure that all the projects that are contained and approved on the project, on the business plan, will have been, the procurement processes will have to be completed. And then number 2 is, as a department, we have already appointed the services of the professional resource teams. These teams are appointed for all the provinces. They will be assisting us to verify the readiness of all the projects that will be contained in the business plans. So when the provinces and the metros submit their business plans, they are going to start soon to look at the status of readiness, so that when we start the new financial year, we will be able to approve the plans, having done the surety that everything is ready to go. Then we are also saying that, yes, we acknowledge that as a department, we'll have to improve on our planning in order to attain our quarterly targets as per the APP. Honorable Chairperson and members, as I conclude, we are recommending that the Portfolio Committee notes the quarterly performance of the department and comments or advice on what we have presented. Thank you so much.
Hello, Chair.
Have we lost the chair?
Honorable Chairperson, we've concluded the presentation. Then the chair
Thank
is
you very
muted.
much. Thank you very much. Can I then invite members to interact with the presentation? Honorable Masuta, followed by Honorable Mandisa Makaseni.
Thank you, Chair, and may I, and greetings to all colleagues. May I firstly welcome the presentation from the department led by the DG, and in particular elevate areas where there has been achievement, but even in areas where there has not been achievement, the contextualization has been very helpful, especially where purely because one item was not realized within the deadline, for that matter, such as the payment of outstanding invoices. I think it's a laudable milestone for the department. However, my feeling, Chair, is that this is not the full picture. Because remember, in the end, delivery does not happen at national, by and large. It happens further down the track, especially at local government level, where clearly we have serious problems. And even though our constitutional democracy dictates that all three spheres are distinctive, they run their own affairs, their own way, etc. Reality is that sitting here at national, we have a responsibility to make sure that the system overall works for the betterment of the lives of our people generally. And I'm raising this because since the last local government elections, call it democracy at work, where there has been a lot of coalition government across the length and breadth of the country, especially in your big metros. Reality is that not much political stability has been realized in the process. And the consequence of that has been that local government in those areas has not functioned optimally. And that has had an impact on service delivery. And much of that instability was purely political, period. And it calls upon all of us in political leadership to reflect on this. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's not about elevating our political objectives. It's about making sure that our people get the best that is possible within the means that the country has. So it's unfortunate that the minister has to attend cabinet because she would have been the best person to guide us and update us on what measures are being taken, especially at the level of cabinet itself, to ensure that stability is realized in all three spheres, especially local government level. What are the MINMECs or the MINMEC in our instance doing to ensure that at provincial level efforts are made to help municipalities stabilize? Because budgets are not being passed, and without budgets being passed, funds cannot be spent, even if the plans are in place and implementation is ready. That's the context. Now, officials can't do more than, wait for those budgets to make the necessary funds released so that they can deliver. So I think in as much as we may be critical of service delivery at local government, we should do so in context. So I'd really urge that at some point, maybe if the cabinet finishes early enough, in time for the minister to catch up with this meeting, she could address us on this issue. And Parliament itself has a responsibility through legislation to ensure that some level of political stability is realized, because we can't, on the eve of celebrating 30 years of democracy, continue to have this kind of instability with the consequence that it has. Billions of money is being sent back simply because there is no political stability. I mean, it's really unacceptable. And it seems to cut across virtually all the provinces without exception. Even in this province where we are, where one would have expected that there should be political stability, there seems to be similar problems as well. So nobody is spared here. It cuts across all the political parties, I believe. So nobody's going to play angel here. Let's work together and find solutions so that we can make progress. But other than that, Chair, I just want to commend the department itself for doing the best they can under difficult circumstances. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Makaseni.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me also welcome the department and welcome also the presentation. I just want to check on the non-achievement of 12%. Both presenters, they were saying, I think on the issue of the non-payment of the service provider, that there are consequences that are being made so that the same thing must not happen again. What are those consequences? If we can get a detailed report of the consequences, especially by the CFO of that affected the achievement on this appointment of payment of invoice that were not paid. What are the what if we can elaborate what they've done internally to make sure that this thing cannot happen again. Then they also said their achievement that will be achieved on the fourth quarter. Maybe if they can tell us exactly out of the 12, how many of those that will be achieved on the fourth quarter, so that we are cleared or we are ready when they come again to appear on the fourth quarter. We know what we must expect to them, because they said that I think there are 3 of those items. They said on the fourth quarter they will be achieved. Another one of that one is the issue of appointment of the service provider through the assistant of SETA. Then they were not clear on the issue of evaluation of the study draft, whether they will achieve on the fourth quarter, and maybe they will start the process from afresh on the new financial year. What are they doing to make sure that this also will be achieved on the next fourth quarter, and what plan do they have if they are not going to achieve on the fourth quarter? Then the issue of rental of the financial performance on the rental and social housing that are sitting on 54% due to the transfer to SRA. Again, the CFO, they said they will be achieved on the next quarter. What assurance that will get that indeed they will achieve? Then the issue of the economic classification of 9%. She said also they responded by maybe they appointed the service provider, or they will appoint the service provider in KZN. What work they are doing now in KZN and Eastern Cape? If they can be detailed, we must know whether did they appoint the service provider or the intention to appoint service provider. What percentage of work? What work are they doing in Eastern Cape and KZN, so that we avoid the 9% again? Then I just wanted the last issue is the issue of the grants, the performance of 64% of the municipality. Is it a general issue in all the municipality, or do we have a specific municipality that you can say they are doing well? Is there improvement? The issue of the coalition, I do understand they are giving us a problem, but their municipality that they are not on coalition, like the Machabeng, is almost 2 months the workers are not working. There's nothing that is happening in this municipality of Machabeng. What are they? Is it a general issue? If we have those municipalities that are doing well, if they can tell us which are those municipalities, so that at least we can upload the work that they are doing in respective municipality. And the issue of recovery plan of the services intervention that is done by the provinces, is it a general also except the Western Cape? What exactly the recovery plan that Sis Lucy was explaining, especially in other provinces? I understand the issue of the Western Cape is a serious problem, but out of the 8 provinces, what exactly, if we can go by province, so that we understand this intervention of the recovery plan that is done between the minister and the MECs in their respective provinces. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Can we get the department to respond?
Thank you, Chairperson and honorable members. Chair, maybe I'll start with just to say we note the comments that have been made by Honorable Masuta. If the minister through the DG, if the minister is not able to join the meeting after cabinet, the matter will be escalated to the minister, and hopefully at the opportune time, chair and members, then the minister will be able to share with the members on what interventions the minister at the level of cabinet they have put in place to assist the municipalities and the non-performing provinces to recover. On the matter that was asked, matters that were asked by Honorable Makaseni, Chair, I do, and she's referring to, maybe let me start with the performance, and I'll request the other colleagues together with the CFO to assist in some areas. Chair, I think this is based on the actual performance, where she wants to know as to whether we'll be able to achieve the 12% that we have not achieved. I do want to, Chair, assure the members that some of the part of the 12% has already been achieved. One, the invoice that was not paid by December, that has already been paid. It has been honored, let alone that it was honored after 30 days. And I think the CFO did touch on that together with the presenter. The second one, Chair, is in relation to the 100% execution of the approved anti-fraud and corruption implementation plan. When the presenter was presenting, Chair, and trying to unpack the deviations, he was very clear to indicate that those areas, the 33% that we could not achieve at that time out of the 100% of this specific target, that has since been performed and it has been achieved. Yes, it was not achieved during Q3, but right now during Q4, it has already been performed. So it has been covered, Honorable Makaseni. I will then ask the colleagues, Honorable Chair, through you, Acting DDG Corporate Services, Ms. Tusi, to be able to respond to the one that relates to SITA, as well as DDG Nyongo to respond to the issue of the appointment of the service provider for the assessment check. The rest of the matters that were raised by Honorable Makasini will relate to the CFO in terms of the finances and the performance of the provinces and the metro. Thank you, Chairperson.
Good morning, Chair and the members and the colleagues. Chairperson, regarding the issue of approaching SITA to assist us with the ICT strategy, we are in following up with them, Chair, and we hope that by this week they would have given us a proposal. We are aiming for the end of the quarter that we would have concluded with SITA on this matter, Chairperson. So we are dependent on the cooperation of SITA again here. And we are hopeful, Chair, that when we come back to report in the next quarter or for this item, we would have achieved this target, Chairperson, of just getting SITA to assist us with this draft strategy. Thanks, Chair.
Diriging Longo.
DG Ngong is not on the platform.
Yeah, I think I was trying to check that she was there in the morning. I think this one, the DG maybe can be able to assist. I know he was working with Ms. Ngong on this one. I'm not really delegating upwards, but I think for the benefit of the members, I think DG at the end of the responses, he will be able to deal with this one. CFO, would you kindly assist with the responses?
Thanks, DDG. I'll start with the non-payment of invoices. That Honorable
Chairperson, there's a hand from Advocate Masuta.
Honorable Masuta, they've not done finishing to respond. Can we allow them to finish and then you'll come on follow up?
Yeah, no, it's fine, Chair. It was just a follow-up on that CETA issue, but it's fine.
Okay. Proceed, CFO.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I'll start with Honorable Makasini on the non-payment of the service providers. So what we did with as finance basically is once we have picked up that the invoices have now exceeded 30 days, we went to the responsible unit requesting them to submit a detailed report on what actually happened. And then the unit indeed did submit because we did some investigation to try and understand what actually happened. Then they submitted, we requested them to send a report. They sent a report to us. Then we made a formal submission to the accounting officer. We requested the accounting officer to say, this is what we have picked up as finance, and then we are requesting guidance. So we are waiting for the further investigation by the accounting officer and the guidance on that matter. Once we have now knowing what are the actual outcome of the investigation, we will be able to let the committee know. But we are indeed, as I said earlier on, we don't want this to be happening all the time because we need to comply with the prescripts. We need to pay all the invoices within 30 days. Hence, once we picked up one invoice, we start acting immediately on that invoice. Now, on the issue of this SHRA, sitting at 54%. This is a transfer. So basically the process is we will receive, the entity will request that we should give them their allocation, but there are certain things that they need to submit. However, when it comes to the month of January, I am confirming that we have received everything. The transfer was effected. The 418 was transferred to the Social Housing and Regulatory Authority. So it was not a target that was not met. It's because they did a request around the month of January, and then we did a transfer. And then now they are sitting at 100% on the transfers and on the transfers to all our entities. Now, on the issue of the economic classification, whereby we are sitting at 9%, if we remember, we have got what we call the Emergency Housing Response Fund. The Emergency Housing Response Fund is the fund that is assisting us to respond in times of disasters and emergencies. So this fund is utilized when we have an emergency. And the unit, they have an information pertaining to all the responses that we've made. Number one, there were several of the shack fires that happens in the informal settlements around KZN across the country. We have responded immediately with the building materials or the fire kits. But unfortunately, the expenditure thereof is close to 54 million that relates to the building materials. Now, the commitments that I spoke to is when there is an emergency and the houses are affected, we need to erect a temporary structure. So we have appointed the service providers because the biggest disasters happened in Eastern Cape and KZN. Hence, I said there is a commitment there because we have appointed the service providers and the information is available from the unit, and the DDG is here. He can elaborate on that. on out of all the units, how many units we have constructed on and how many are on the ground. The DDG is on the meeting. He will be able to respond to that. But the commitment is to say that as finance, we have already issued out the appointment letters for the service providers to construct the TRUs so that there is temporary accommodation for the household or for the beneficiaries so that they don't stay outside. The DDG will respond that on how many service providers and how many TRUs have already started and the work in progress in that regard. Now, when it comes to the issue of the performance, when I was presenting, I did indicate that we are color coding the performance. Some of them are sitting on red, some of them is green, some of them is amber. So this means that not all of them are not doing very well. Some of these metros are doing fairly well, whereas others are doing very well. When we look at the performance on the slide that talks to the Urban Settlement Development Grant, we can see that Buffalo City is sitting at green. So it's doing well. However, there are these other ones on the USDG, City of Joburg, eThekwini, and City of Cape Town, that's sitting as amber, meaning that they are doing fairly well, but there are these ones that are sitting on green, on red, apologies. Nelson Mandela, Mangaung, Ekurhuleni, and City of Tshwane. So the ones that were sitting on red are the ones that we said, what is it that you're going to do? Give us your plan. So most of them, they came and said, these are the challenges that we are sitting with. But basically, we have moved budgets, but we are waiting for the council. For example, City of Tshwane came and said, we are waiting for the council to come and approve the budgets because we are moving money from the non-performing projects to the performing projects. But because of the council and what Honorable Masuta had said, these are the challenges that even if we come up with interventions, but because the council does not sit to approve the budgets. So we will be saying, let's move money from this project to the other projects, even though we'll know that we'll be able to absorb additional money on this project, but we will need the council to sit and approve those budget movements. We went to Mangaung and said, Mangaung, what is it that we can do to turn the situation around? Mangaung came to us and said, we have appointed the leadership now. We have got a leadership that is appointed in Mangaung. Can we give this leadership to present the recovery plan? And Mangaung did say to us, we have went out, we have looked at what are the challenges, and here are the projects that we think that they will be able to absorb. One of the projects that they came up with was, they said that we all know that Mangaung is dirty. We need to start on cleaning up the city. And this is what that they've been doing, because this is a metro that's supposed to attract people within the province. So they said, allow us to procure fleet. Even they went as far as to National Treasury to say, the challenge in Mangaung, we need fleet. Treasury did give them a special dispensation to say, let us allow Mangaung to procure fleet because this is the challenge that they have identified. Then when we look at Ekurhuleni as well, they said to us, even though we have got this, we know what actually has been happening is political instability within Ekurhuleni. So these are the challenges that we are sitting with, even if we look at what is it that we need to do. Because we went a step further to say, let's look at the procurement. Have we procured? Have we looked at the procurement? Do we have capacity? And those that we felt that there is no capacity, that's when we said, if there is no capacity to implement these projects, instead of moving, because these are service delivery related projects, instead of moving funds from one metro to another, why don't we look at the option of capacity, bringing in the implementing agent so that the money does not have to leave the metro? When we looked at the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant as well, you can see with the color coding that there are some of these ones that are doing very well and the ones that are not doing very well. And the ones that are not doing very well, they came to us and said, this is what we are going to do to turn the situations around, and we need the assistance. And hence we said we are sitting down with them to assist them because we don't want to be moving money. And the last question from an Honorable Makasini was the recovery plans on the provinces. Now, the provinces as well. Only one province is sitting as red. That's why, which is the Western Cape. Hence, I spoke about the recovery plan of the Western Cape. Now, when we look at Free State and Gauteng province, that's sitting at amber. When we look at Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, that's sitting at green. And all the other provinces, when it comes to the Women Settlement Development Grant, are doing very well, and they're saying we need additional money. But what we did with the Free State, we requested a recovery plan, and we know the intervention that we have done in Free State, and that intervention is yielding fruits now. When we came during the first and the second quarter, we know that Free State were not doing very well. Hence, we had to second the officials because the biggest challenge was the leaders of the past within the Free State province. And then we had to deal with the procurement. And they are doing very well now because they have procured and the service providers are on site. Hence, as of the 31st of December, they are reflecting 62%. As well as the Gauteng province, we know that Gauteng province, they are utilizing the implementing agents and they are implementing the mega projects. And they came and said, this is the plan on the mega projects and there are units on the ground and we are doing fairly very well. So the color coding was to show those provinces that are not doing very well vis-a-vis the provinces that are doing very well. I'm going to request my colleague DDG Zama to talk to the commitments and the work that we are doing in KZN and Eastern Cape when it comes to the emergency housing response through Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Sis Lucy. Greetings to the Chairperson and members, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the DG colleagues. I won't take long because I think the CFO has explained the issues, except to say in total we're busy constructing 1,484 TRUs, which are temporary residential units for people that were affected by different disasters, especially the people who were residing in mud structures. In the Eastern Cape, we are busy with 962 units, which is split in different districts. Chris Hani, Sarah Batman, Amachole, Alfred Nzo, Buffalo City, Wartambo, and Nelson Mandela Bay. At KZN, we're busy with 522 units. At King Cetshwayo, Ugu, Ilembe, Umkhanyakude, Umgungundlovu, Herikwala, and eThekwini. These units are at various stages of construction. Chairperson, in some areas we've got challenges of in the far-flung areas we've got challenges of accessing the contractors, got challenges of accessing building material for the TRUs because it is specialized material that needs to withstand weather patterns. Therefore, it must be durable. Another problem that we're experiencing, especially in the deepest of our rural areas, it's the terrain where contractors are battling to access the households, which makes the project takes a bit longer. And also the issue of business forums, which expect to be subcontracted at higher rates. That also frustrates the progress. But maybe as to the stages of the different projects, I think, Honorable Chair, will need maybe to submit a report to say in Chris, how many projects, how many units are at a foundation phase or stage, how many units are at wall plates stage, and how many units have been completed. But I must indicate that the project is in progress, Chairperson. Maybe when we appear before the portfolio committee for the fourth quarter, we'll have to submit that information, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Chairperson, thank you. If I may respond to the question that was raised in respect of the assessment that needs to be done in our policy and research space, which from a monitoring and evaluation point of view is an essential part. We have been asked whether we believe we would be able to meet this target. Indeed, we are confident that by the end of the financial year, we would have met the target from a point of view of at least having commenced with the assessment itself. The matter of this assessment, as members may have seen, has been split in two ways to enable progress to happen. And in this regard, we are now at a position where the service provider can indeed commence with the process of the assessment itself. And we are then saying that by the end of the fourth quarter, as it ends, because this was a third quarter target, the third quarter target had actually spoken about the appointment of a service provider to do the assessment. And the fourth quarter carried the completion of this. So what it now means is that in essence, we would achieve the third quarter target in the fourth quarter, and we would then be in a position to continue with this. We believe that given the timelines of the work that needs to be done, this would be will survive the fourth quarter and be achieved immediately at the beginning of the new quarter financial year. But the report would then be processed at that point. However, the third quarter target would have been achieved in the fourth quarter. Let me just also deal with the matter of SETA. The SETA matter, Chair, is that we are required by law to have certain services that are prescribed that we need to utilize SETA only and no one else. And also where SETA itself has no capacity, it relies itself on its own panels and on its own service providers that it has appointed to assist government in this regard. I think the debates around this matter have been raging and ongoing within government as to whether this is the best way of handling this matter. But as it is, as we speak, the requirements are that some of this work we are required to do it via SETA, and therefore we have been dependent on them to bring the matter to finality. One needs to report that owing to huge pressure that we had mounted on the part of SETA, they ended giving us a proposal which we had rejected outrightly. And for this type of work, what it will have cost us was so exorbitant that we felt that if we were allowed to do it ourselves, we may as well succeed at doing it even more cheaper and even much better to finalize on the strategy and architecture of our entire organization, including the platforms we require to service citizens. So consequently, there has been escalations, and as we do speak, the meeting between myself and the CEO of SETA, the acting CEO, has already taken place, and with the agreement that we escalate this further for the matter to be presented and ventilated even at ministerial level. And I think that that's what we are busy with. Had we accepted the proposal of SETA, most likely we would have now met the target, but we felt that it was just so unjustifiable and so unreasonable what we have been requested to outlay just to have a strategy. We were being requested to outlay about 16 million rands to just develop a strategy, which is what we outrightly rejected, because we think it's a far cry. For a fraction of the cost, we would be able to achieve the same. And we therefore outrightly rejected it. And we think that in the broader scheme of things, we have been trying to recalibrate our relationship with SETA, because this was not the only, if I may say, failure that we had identified. We had seen a number of areas where we were not getting joy in terms of the levels of service we would require. Needless to state that the new acting CEO has committed and has also identified 2 new account managers and 2 contacts for us to liaise with and for us to work through. And one must say that having done so, at least in as far as the issue of the system that we now require to replace ultimately the HSS, we have received a proposal that we deem to be acceptable and that we think we can ventilate and grow on it better, and to ensure that that is our biggest and first prize to start with. It's where we ought to be. So just to contextualize and characterize the challenges we're facing, and we are not the only department facing this as it relates to SETA, but we are trying within the system as it is to really put a lipstick on a pig. So I think that that is the arrangement we are sitting with, Chairperson. Thank you.
Honorable Masuta.
Thank you, Chair. It was precisely in relation to what the DG has just talked to now. Yeah, those who have been in government know this problem well too well. You ask SETA, well, firstly, you can't do any ICT project without doing it through SETA. And if you want deviation so that SETA waives its right to be the one that provides the service, you entirely at their mercy to say yay or nay. Otherwise, if you go ahead and do it without their approval, it's irregular, and the Auditor General is going to be on your neck. Now, they know that they hold that power. And we're one government here. We can't have a situation where one entity in government, the same government, holds a whole lot, the entire government to ransom because they've been given this exceptional power. You know, I experienced that myself when I was a minister, where the department, out of frustration, ended up committing an irregularity and going outside of SETA. And then it becomes almost impossible to get the condonation out. So, Chair, I wanted to propose that can the department just give a detailed outline of areas of ICT where they're dependent on SETA, where they've been experiencing challenges, you know, a full list. And let's put those things in writing as this portfolio committee to SETA and ask them to address us both in writing in response to those issues, and if our time allows, Chair, for them to come and present their report here so that we hold them accountable, you know, because yes, it affects the whole of government, but we are also part of the whole of government, and we can't be held back because of, you know, I'm sure even in the next presentation, we're going to encounter something similar with public works around issues of release of public immovable assets, including land, which you need to build houses, etc. But I'm not going into that before I'm called to order, because we're still getting to it. But the same issue, ultimately cabinet intervention is the only solution. To create a system of flexibility such that departments are not held back from even meeting their own targets when it's not within their power to do so on certain issues, because they are dependent on other arms of state to cooperate with them. So that's the proposal I wanted to make as a follow-up, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Masuta. Any other hand? No hand. Honorable Masuta, if you remember, there was the issue of the beneficiary issue that was supposed to have received the presentation by the minister and the SETA, because even in the previous quarter, one of the reasons why we've not moved on the digitization of the beneficiary list has been attributed as SETA delaying the process, and we then took a decision that we must invite SETA. Already there is that in the pipeline, but we had to shift the meeting because the minister wanted to be part and was not available. So I think we'll have that opportunity to interact with the SETA. Agreed?
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
But can we then ask that this item also be included so that we have a full day's, a full count of all the issues that are dependent on SETA's cooperation, so that we don't have to call them again and again? If the Chair agrees, thanks.
Yes, Honorable Masud. Thank you very much. We'll do that. I think the Secretariat is noting that. So with that note, I want to thank the department for the presentation on the performance, and as members have indicated that we welcome the performance of Q3, and we hope that even as we are going to Q4 and the new committee will then be able to be very proud of the work that you have done. Thank you very much, DG, and your team. Can we then go to the second item? I'm not sure who's leading, DG Mhlongwa, I think, and then joined by HDA if they are here.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning once again, and good morning to the honorable members as well. The DG, the DM, I think she has joined, and colleagues. Thank you, Honorable Chair. We will be taking you through the presentation, which is focusing on the progress on land acquisition, both from Public Works as well as the Department of Rural Development. But also we'll be highlighting in terms of then the status of the development on the land that has been acquired. Also, as part of the presentation, we will also highlight issues around state-owned building acquisition in terms of where we are. And then lastly, what then the presentation chairperson will be focusing on is then the whole issue around illegal land invasions and some recommendations for the committee to note and maybe provide guidance. As the chair has already indicated, this is the work that we are doing together with HDA. So on the call, we do have the CEO of HDA and team, and then with your permission, Honorable Chair, I will request that then we be allowed then to hand them over to lead the presentation and request Secretariat if can assist in terms of flighting the presentation for us.
No, you have co-host rights. You can share from your side, Anna.
Okay, let me. Okay, HCA, who will be leading us? Lucian?
Yeah, thank you, DDG. Lucian will be leading us on the. I think he can flight it from his side.
Yes, Lucian, let me know if you are able to flight from your side.
Okay, can you? I did not see the last version that was forwarded to the portfolio committee. If you are able to flight that version, please, for us. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. You can proceed just to introduce. I'll see if I can flight it from my side then. I have it.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe, Chair, let's start by greeting the chairperson, the DM, the portfolio committee members, and our DG and the colleagues in administration. I think, Chair, we have just moved into the new offices, and then unfortunately at some point we do have those technical glitches. We apologize for that. In the morning we had a bit of a challenge, but we were able to connect. So we wanted to just pass that message, Chair, to say that we had a technical glitch, but we got it right, having moved into the new offices. And Mr. Lucian Rapale is the head of land in the HDA, will then take us through the presentation through you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, CEO, and good morning, Chair, honorable members, colleagues, DG. I will be taking you through the presentation on the release of state-owned land that's held nationally by the Department of Public Works. Will also be flagging the land parcels or specific buildings that we have identified within inner cities that we require also as part of the inner city housing developments. And we will also just briefly flag on the work that we're doing with the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, focusing specifically on the Mthatha, and there's a specific reason for that. And we'll also flag properties that we have already requested from that specific department. The purpose of the presentation, Chair, it's basically to appraise the committee on the development status of land that has been released by Public Works, including also some of the properties that we have acquired as HDA, working with the provinces and municipalities for inner city housing, including the work that we're doing with the Department of Rural Development, as I've indicated. Chair, as part of the introduction, that's the next slide, Chair, just as a brief remark, we have been struggling as the sector over the years to specifically access land or state land that's owned by Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, Chair. And as you probably would know, land that's typically owned by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure would be land that would be located
previously before 1994 in areas that were controlled, were the so-called your Transvaal Provincial Administration, your Cape Administration, and also Natal. And in relation to land that's owned by the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, that would be land that would typically be located in areas that were previously administered as part of the self-governing territories and also the Bantustans. Now, from a location point of view, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure land parcels would, from a spatial transformation point of view, be well located compared to land that's owned by the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. And I must indicate, Chair, upfront that we have not really had challenges with accessing Department of Rural Development and Land Reform land parcels. But unfortunately, that's land that's required in the main to roll out our rural housing program. We're not saying it's not important, it is important, but in the main, yeah, that's that. Now, we've also flagged the special, the SPLUMA principles, that's the previous slide, DDG, special justice, special efficiencies, access to connectivity and economic and social infrastructure, and adequate access to adequate accommodation and the provision of quality housing options. So those are some of the SPLUMA principles which the release of some of these land parcels in fact complies with. The next slide. Next slide, Chair, is a summary of the land parcels that have been released to date by the Department of Public Works specifically. Chair, you would note that in total, there's 2,500 hectares of land that has been released nationally, with the Eastern Cape 214, Free State 48, Gauteng 473 hectares, KwaZulu-Natal 419, Limpopo 0.4814, it's not a lot, that's under a hectare, and then Mpumalanga 314, Northern Cape 270, Northwest 725, Western Cape 33. So this is what has been released to date by way of a power of attorney from Public Works to the HDA, working with the provinces and the municipalities to commence with development planning on these properties. The green highlighted land parcels, 22 of them, those are the land parcels that are located within the priority development spaces of priority housing development areas. And the yellow highlighted ones are the ones that are located within 5-kilometer radius of the nearest priority development area. And then those that are red highlighted are the ones that are located outside the or greater than 5 kilometers of the nearest priority development area. In the main, those would be land parcels that are required for rural housing development and also agri-villages. I think it will become clearer as I present, Chair. So the 2,500 represents what has been released to date, but I must indicate that there's continuous work that we're doing with the Department of Public Works. There's other well-located land parcels that we still are waiting from Public Works to release. Chair, you would notice, you would have remembered that the initial identification, we actually identified 14,000 hectares of land for human settlements development, but that's a continuous process, as I've just indicated. So next slide, it's a summary development status of the properties. 15 of them are at pre-planning stages. Township establishment applications have been submitted for 4, and then 4 of them, they already have rezoning approvals. Next slide zooms into the specific land parcels, Chair. BCM, that's Buffalo City. You notice there that in the Chiselhurst area, there is typical infill site which are currently at pre-planning stages. The idea there working with BCM is to get the properties appropriately subdivided so that they can be allocated to individuals who will be able to then build their own houses. Kucha municipality, that on Gegent, there is a big informal settlement next to that property. We're working with the Eastern Cape Human Settlements Department to upgrade that specific informal settlement, but then at the same time, develop new housing on the specific property. It's, from a location point of view, it's well located by the fact that it's not within a priority development space. The Humansdorp one, it's required for rural housing, no big issues there, including also the Water Sisulu, which is required for title restoration, including also new BNG houses. Next slide, in the Free State Province, Kopanong and Letsemeng, there's the Betuli property there. We currently doing development planning, working with the province and the municipality on the Kopanong property, Letsemeng. The property, 40-hectare property, is required to specifically address a specific informal settlement called Pambili, which has been protesting to the municipality and also to the province. But since we've communicated with them that the property has been identified and therefore earmarked to accommodate them, there hasn't really been service delivery protests in the area. In the Gauteng area, Ekurhuleni, and there's the property in Ekurhuleni, Boksburg, including also Benoni. We're currently doing detailed development feasibility studies on it. As you would know, there's some of these land parcels, in fact, were previously undermined, and therefore we just need to be certain that from a geological point of view, the properties are indeed suitable for human settlements development. Pretoria West, in the Atteridgeville area, that's the Elandsfontein property that has been released. That's currently at development planning stages or township establishment stages. We're working also with the city of Tshwane. That property is specifically meant to address the Atteridgeville West informal settlements, your Itirelings, your Brazzaville's. I'm sure those who know the Pretoria West area, there are just too many informal settlements in that area. So that's part of the solution over and above other initiatives we're working with the city of Tshwane on in that specific space. In Johannesburg, Syferfontein, that's part of the mega project. There's a part of the land that's owned by the city of Johannesburg. Then this other part that's owned by Public Works, who then help in terms of the consolidation to ensure that we are able to develop over 30,000 housing units in that specific space. In eThekwini, KZN, there's eMagadleni properties that are required for agri-villages and also the Greater Amena informal settlements. The 2.1 hectare property is required specifically for that purpose. And then the agri-village development or proposal is relates to the Groenvlei area. In Limpopo, Bendo, Chair, those are small infill sites within the old part of Bendo, not the new Bendo, Sterk Park or Tender Park, as it is commonly known. We're currently doing rezoning there. The idea is to get the properties developed for social housing development. The next slide, it's about Mpumalanga, JS Moroka Municipality, Siabuswa. There, what the release addresses is the formalization of the existing township. There's a GP approved already, so eventually the idea is that the beneficial occupants of that specific settlement would then be able to get their title deed. In Emalahleni, these are properties that are located within the developed area of Wheatbank, and therefore they are earmarked for site and services for allocation to beneficiaries who can then build their own houses. Mbombela Farm Dingwell, the name of that informal settlement is Msholozi Chair. And since we received the power of attorney from Public Works, we were able to get the township establishment approved by Mbombela municipality. There's been water reticulation. The township has been approved. So once sewer is connected, we would then be able to then formally proclaim the township and then ensure the registration of title deeds for the beneficial occupants. But the settlement itself has been upgraded. I think once sewer issues are sorted, it would then be upgraded to level 3. In Northwest Madibeng, there is the Hartepiesport, the Sonop area, and also the Gamil Drift. What we're trying to address there with the land release chair is land tenure upgrading. You have people who've settled on land that's owned by Public Works, but whose tenure is currently insecure because they don't have title deeds. So the land release specifically addresses that. Then the Rooigrond in Mahikeng, that's an informal settlement next to the prison, Rooigrond prison. We got the township, since we received the power of attorney, we were able to at least get the township approved. Already 1,000 housing units, including services, have been completed. There is the second part of the, or second phase of the development that is also currently underway. Then in the Northern Cape, Khonyane, there is the Grumman property. We are currently doing, because we suspect that there may be dolomite stability investigations that's currently underway. Polokwane, we planning that small development for low-income housing, and in Kgatelopele, township establishment has been approved recently. We'll be implementing that project together with the province and Kgatelopele municipality. In the Western Cape, Chair, there's the Drakenstein properties, the 2 land parcels. The one property, there is houses already built on it, so the release would then enable us to, or has enabled us then to proceed with the registration of the title deeds. In other words, we'll then be able to proclaim the township and then at the same time ensure the opening of the township register, including also the registration of the title deeds. Otherwise, the other portion of property would then create an opportunity or present itself as an opportunity for us to build further houses. On the Stellenbosch property, Chair, that's what's planned there is also normal formalization. There are people already on the land. We're currently concluding the rezoning of the property. On the Driftsend, the property itself has serious environmental constraints. We were earmarking it as an emergency housing area, but we're currently doing detailed feasibility studies to see whether there aren't certain portions of what has been released that we can utilize as emergency housing, noting the huge human settlements challenges we are experiencing specifically within the city of Cape Town. The Mossel Bay one, Chair, that property is required for title restoration and the rezoning is currently underway because the land is settled on. What then follows, Chair, is just the schematic representation of what's being planned on some of the land parcels that I have already touched on. Syferfontein, you'd see there, that's in Joburg and also Rand West municipality. We are planning over 30,000 housing units there. Then the next one is the Benoni Boxback properties that I have indicated. I've indicated that we're doing detailed geological investigations there. Then the Msholozi or Gamil Drift in the northwest, there I've indicated that we're gonna be doing formalization or land formalization to ensure that eventually there's tenure upgrading. The following one is, Chair, the Grumman property that's also currently at planning stages, including also the Kgatelopele that I've indicated has been approved recently. The Carterville ones, that's the, this one specifically, Chair, you will notice that I've indicated that 6411, there are houses that have been built there already, but 6412 presents an opportunity for us to build new housing units. So on 641, the challenge there is for us to then ensure that we expedite the registration of the title deeds. Then the Dr. J.S. Moroka property, I've also already indicated that the release therefore then addresses issues relating to formalization, including also land tenure upgrading. In Polokwane, that's the conceptual, that's the next slide, DDG. Polokwane, that's what's being planned. I said social housing on the Bendo or the infill sites within Bendo. And then the last one in terms of the properties, the Mossel Bay one, I've also indicated that there are people that are settled on the property. What's being planned here is formalization, including also land tenure upgrading. Then the last one then becomes the Roy Grond one. I've indicated that this is an approved township. Already over 1,000 housing units have been constructed, including the services. There is a second phase that's currently underway where the province, together with the municipality, will be installing services and then the construction of housing units. That, Chair, then deals with the status of the DPW properties. I must say this is a continuously work with the department to ensure that they release as much suitable land that the municipalities require for human settlement development as possible. Now, in relation to inner city housing and in relation to state-owned buildings, Chair, the HDA has already acquired 3 inner city buildings from state-owned enterprises, being ESCOM, including also the SABC, for medium housing, including also open market sectional title, social and rental housing, and student accommodation. This is in Cape Town, Kimberley, and also in Johannesburg. And the HDA is currently packaging these development opportunities to ensure that we are able to develop them without further delays. So there is also further properties that are owned by state-owned enterprises, including also land parcels that are owned by the state, which we currently are assessing for possible development. So what then follows, Chair? It's the summary of the properties that we've already acquired. I've mentioned the Sea Point SABC that's already registered in the names of the HDA, and also the ESCOM property in Braamfontein is also now in the names of the HDA, currently being packaged. What we're missing here, Chair, is the Kimberley property, the tallest building in Kimberley, that has also already been acquired, and it's also currently been packaged. So the next slides from 3.3, that is just a summary of some of the additional properties that are owned by government, including provinces and also your state-owned enterprises that we have identified and are currently assessing for possible development. So I will just run through that slide, Chair, including the next one on the in terms of the location of the properties. Yeah, then the following one is the Nana Sita properties in Pretoria. And then in Johannesburg, there is the properties that are also owned by Transnet, which we already looking at. They are non-core to their operations, and therefore they do not necessarily have an objection to release them. It's just that there is a compensation payable. Yeah. Then in Ekurhuleni also there are properties that we identified in Germiston that are owned by Public Works, which we require for human settlements or for affordable rental housing. So that then deals with inner city housing initiatives. Again, this is work that's continuing. We will ensure that we cover the entire country so that we don't just focus on these areas that we've already covered so far. So in terms of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development Land Chair, I've already indicated that in general, we do not necessarily really have challenges with accessing land that's owned by this department. We have not really had big challenges with this department. So we zoomed into Mthatha because there's been a request, ministerial request, to look into it, zoom into it and see how can then we then assist, especially in the Mthatha West. So what we have noticed, Chair, is the fact that most of the state-owned land parcels in Mthatha West are already settled on, albeit that's informal settling. So our responsibility then becomes to ensure that we are able to facilitate the release of these land parcels to the municipality, but then at the same time ensure that we coordinate the formalization of these specific settlements. So what we have noticed is the fact that most of these land parcels are in fact have land claims, and therefore we will need to working with the Chief Land Claims Commissioner, which we've already started the process, to ensure that the Land Claims Commission does agree to the release of these properties, because in our view, because they are already settled on and these people have been on the land for many years, they are, in our view, no longer restorable, and therefore the land claimants should then be offered alternative land parcels or alternative form of compensation and not necessarily land restoration. So that is our view, Chair. So, but then there are those that do not necessarily have land claims, and we've already requested this specific department to release them so that together with the municipality King Dalinyebo Sabat, King Sabata Dalinyebo, or KSD, we are then able to facilitate the formalization of these specific townships. So the map that's projected there, it's a demonstration of the properties that are not subject to land claims, meaning that these are the properties that we have requested and therefore they should be released to the municipality for human settlements development. The slide that then follows shows the extent of the settlement. You can clearly see some people have built proper houses there, and yeah, it may not be possible to say that the land must be allocated to the land claimants because they may not be that land claimants may not be able to then use these properties. Then what then follows is an indication of the land parcels that are settled on within Mthatha, but which unfortunately have land claims. That's a summary, and then it's then followed by the maps. If we can go to the map, DDG, red highlighted, that indicates the areas that have land claims, and unfortunately all of these properties are settled on, and that's the assignment, that ministerial assignment that we have to work with the commission to ensure, the Land Claims Commission, to ensure that we facilitate the resolution of the land claims in order to ensure that we get these properties released for human settlements development or for formalization purposes. Over and above that, Chair, if we step off Mthatha, there are new properties that we have requested. That's the Edendale, the properties that we've requested from Rural Development and Land Reform in the Edendale area in KZN, Sunduzi, Maritzburg. The department is currently considering the requests, and there are other requests from other areas that we have processed with that department. So that then deals with some of the work we're doing with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. If I can zoom, Chair, into the illegal land invasion issues, I must say generally this is a big problem for the sector. And in fact, I am sure that at an opportune time, we'll be allowed to just indicate to the portfolio committee what has been happening in the area of illegal land invasion over, say, the last 5 years. There's been mushrooming of new informal settlements, unfortunately. And public land obviously is not spared from that. It's also prone to illegal land invasion, and the challenges associated with that includes the fact that the occupants of these land parcels obviously don't have security of tenure. And in the Joburg South area, we were planning at some stage together with the city of Johannesburg and the province. We had too many townships where we were planning to do over 20,000 housing units, but I must say all of those land parcels have since been invaded. That basically means that the township establishments and the layout plans that we prepared for the development of those land parcels would then naturally mean that we're going to have to abandon that and then look at the possibility of developing that as an informal settlement upgrading, because you then have these areas that there's been a mushrooming of informal settlements, and therefore the biggest problem, I think, Chair, is the issue of access to basic services, because once land is invaded, then typically what then happens is that the occupants go to the local municipality to then demand basic services in the form of water, including also sanitation. Eviction costs generally are very high. In some instances, we'd find that landowners don't go that route because it's high. I mean, the eviction costs are high. And then more often you'd find that even though there's been attempts by certain municipalities and provinces to apply for eviction orders, that's usually, if you get that the orders would be couched with an obligation to provide alternative accommodation, and that's usually not always possible because there is generally lack of suitable land that can be utilized as alternative accommodation. So some of the proposed interventions in relation to illegal land invasion, Chair, relates to the fact that municipalities are encouraged to ensure that they enforce their bylaws to prevent unauthorized land invasions, and that landowners here, we're referring to both public custodians, including also private landowners, are encouraged to ensure that they establish rapid land invasion response capacity, so that as and when their land is invaded, they are able to respond immediately. And where possible, landowners are also encouraged to obtain interdicts to stop unauthorized land invasions. And landowners are also encouraged to undertake continuously risk assessments as preventative measures. And where possible, the appointment of security service providers to ensure that land is adequately protected is also encouraged, including also the creation of multi-stakeholder forums to address these issues. And then post-invasion, this is instances where land has already been invaded. The recommendation is that landowners must be able to lodge urgent application for eviction orders, and where possible, they must also be able to lay trespassing charges against illegal land occupiers. And in some instances, I mean, they should be able to engage occupants of land to find amicable solution to the land invasion, and where possible to also assist illegal occupiers, because some of them genuinely really require land, and some of them can be accommodated on some of the existing human settlements programs or developments. Chair, the recommendation is that the portfolio committee note the status of the release of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure land and identified state-owned buildings, and some of the work that we're doing with the Department of Agriculture, Land and Rural Development and Land Reform for human settlements development. I will end here, Chair, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. If there is no addition from Department or from DM, we'll then go to members to ask questions or clarity or make inputs in the presentation. Can I then welcome members to ask questions or to interact with the presentation? I don't see any hands, members that we have. Oh, Honorable Malimata.
Chair, I'm struggling to raise my budget, my hands. Can you please also note my hand?
Okay, you follow Honorable Malimata.
No, thank you, Chair. Let me start by welcoming this report and say it gives at least a light of what is there to be utilized as a land. Mine is around the hotspot land, such as the one in Western Cape. You see, in Western Cape, there's a need for this land, and we've been time and again talking about this land. Now, is there any plan that can prove that in a form of sense of agency, that we can see the development taking place there? Just to cut a lot of talks. But that also, Chair, goes to other pockets of land where we know that they are there, but there are a number of eyes that are looking on it. What is it that is there to prevent what will come and lament as land invasion? Because we now know this land belongs to the state, and it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that we prevent that, rather to come and act. I'm saying this after the report says that there are incidents where land is now occupied and nothing will happen. So if we don't prevent, it means we'll come and lament. Now I'm saying, is there a plan after recording that this land belongs to us that can show development of some sort or measures that will prevent these invaders from taking this land so that this land can be an asset for future development? I think I can just pause there, Chair, for now.
Thank you, Honorable Malamasa. Honorable Makasen.
Thank you, Chair. I think the department has been dragging the feet to address the issue of apartheid special planning. And the concept of the special justice and efficiency of the department to develop the need should be followed. Otherwise, more than anything, for us to address and redress the issue of apartheid special planning, we need really a decisive leadership and a political will, because there is land. It's just we don't have a political will to give people our land. Then on slide 7, I just want to check, do we have any indication when the municipality, the council resolution will be presented on the pre-planning and township application, so that we can have a resolution to the respective municipality so that we deal according to the law with the issue of the land. Then I just want to check also the type of the houses that you are going to build in Kumha, in the portion of 62 farm in Dungeni. What types of the houses that are you going to build? Because that area is a rural area, so that you can get a sense what are you doing. Then the deeds of donation process that were done by the department, they were presented there was something that they were waiting for a signature. Which signature are you waiting for? How long are you going to wait for a signature so that the deeds and the donation can be processed? Then the issue of the city of Cape Town on the property, whether the property, the land is unsuitable for our human settlement, and what environment constraint do they identify? Whether currently do we have people that are sitting there in that area, so that you get a clear report what is happening. Ingabi just vacant like that. If we can get an update on that one. Then the issue of, I just want to also to welcome the consideration done by the Department of the Student Accommodation and acquired by the department, except Gauteng. Is there any other metros or other provinces that we have identified to acquire? Yes, I know in Tata we have identified any other metros that we have acquired the land, especially in the inner city, so that our students are closer to the institution of higher learning. They don't travel a long distance. Then lastly, Chair, is the issue of land, illegal and invasion of post-invasion the land of the land. The first step is we must always engage with our current occupants on the human level before anything extreme can happen. The assistance of the department also welcome, but we don't have bylaws in our municipality. We can amend the act, we can come with the legislation. If we don't have the bylaws in our municipality, we'll always come with the excuse of land invasion, and our people need land. If the government is owing the land, the government must give our people the land so that we avoid the issue of land occupation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Makasen. Honorable Tseki.
Just one question, Chair. Have we expropriated any land that belongs to the private sector for a national good in terms of for property or for housing development? I hope my question is clear, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to HDA, followed by the department to respond.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, with your permission, the last question from Honorable Zeki. Yes, I can confirm that we have recently expropriated land in Rustenburg, Marikana area from the private landowners, which land parcels are required for human settlements development as part of the Marikana development. And I can also confirm that there are others that are in the pipeline. I'm sure we'll be able to, at an opportune time, report on them appropriately. So yes, we are using the expropriation sting to, where possible, expropriate land where we cannot, on reasonable terms, agree with landowners. On the issue that have been raised by Honorable Malemaja in the Western Cape, Chair, I suppose the challenges with expediting some of these projects, it's in the main securing or timely securing of the required approvals, including also issues relating to bulk services. There is a number of projects. Some of them are not necessarily the ones that we reported on here in the Western Cape, that we're trying to expedite its implementation so that there's visible development on the ground. In terms of the preventative measures to cap land invasion, we usually make use of security service providers. In some instances where land parcels are specifically susceptible or prone to invade, I mean, there are specific hotspots, there you then ensure that you put permanent security service providers, but in certain instances, you then put surveillance security service providers. In other words, those that would be able to just survey the land because they're specific land parcels. So we do assess them to check the nature of security that's required to specifically guard specific land parcels. But we work very closely with our municipalities. In certain instances, municipalities through their metropolis have some capacity to assist us in that respect. In relation to the issues that have been raised by Honorable Makaseni, Chair, around spatial transformation, some of the land parcels that we've already acquired, I mean, if you take the Sea Point property, Chair, just as an example, I am sure that although it's small in the bigger scheme of things, the impact might be not necessarily be that huge. But the fact of the matter is that we have started really making inroads into the the space economy. And there are other land parcels that are owned by National Department of Public Works that we have requested, which are located in very good locations where if once they are released, I mean, we'll be able to really make inroads, we'll be able to really make impact from a spatial transformation point of view. Council resolutions, we working very closely with the respective municipalities. We anticipate that that should not take longer than 3 months from now. The Guha development, I said there is an informal settlement next to that specific land parcel. So the idea there is that we will accommodate that informal settlement, but then at the same time, there's an opportunity because of the size of the land, we should be able to then accommodate some mixed income housing as well because of the strategic location of that specific property. Deed of donations, there is an issue here. Some of them are located in, some of these land parcels are located in your deep rural areas, and we're negotiating with the Department of Public Works that the properties not necessarily be donated and transferred into the names of the HDA, but that they be transferred directly into the names of the municipality or the respective municipality. Again, we don't anticipate that that should take longer. On the Drift Sands property in Cape Town, yes, there are people who have invaded this specific property. Unfortunately, it's just not suitable in the main for human settlements development. But the parts that are not settled on, that's the parts that I said we are looking into them. We're currently doing detailed investigations to see if we cannot use those portions for emergency housing. Except Gauteng, where else? In Bloemfontein, we also have the inner city housing initiatives do not necessarily center around buildings, Chair, but there is also infill sites, vacant land parcels that are located within some of the inner cities like Mangaung, Bloemfontein, which we're going to be utilizing for human settlement development. I think I have attempted to cover all the questions, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Zeki and Honorable Masuta. Okay, Honorable Masuta, Honorable Zeki similarly the legacy hand. Honorable Masuta.
Thanks, Chair. And at some point I lost connectivity, so I may have missed some of the responses and parts of the presentation. So please forgive me. So starting with inner city properties that are state-owned, whether by parastatals or even municipalities. Now, there is a historical context to some of these things. In some instances, parastatals, even your mining industry, for example, which is the private sector, had social schemes for their employees, where they would provide cheaper or affordable accommodation that's subsidized in order to ensure that the wage goes a long way, and issues such as cost of accommodation are taken out of the of eroding the income, which I think was a very good idea. I don't know to what extent those practices still exist. But some of these properties are currently either being rented by the same municipalities, etc., at a nominal fee, or have actually been sold out. Now, the problem that I am observing is that many of these are run down. Nobody's taking responsibility for their upkeep. You know, a house is like a child. You can't postpone maintaining a child for a year or for 5 years and say, I don't have enough money to take my child to school or to buy him food. It's a continuous, unbroken responsibility. Otherwise, that's where you find inner cities being so run down, the value of assets so degraded, and the cities get degenerated into slums. We can't continue this culture in our country. We need to turn this around. And I believe this department can play a role. And my suggestion would be, you know, you sell a very big house to somebody for a sum as a municipality or whichever government entity. And then this person, for 20 years, they never even paint the building. They don't fix cracks because they don't have a sense of ownership, even though they're holding title deed on this thing. You know, grass is not cut, you know, the water reticulation system, the pipes are leaking, nobody cares, they just jump sewage coming from their house. We can't continue like this. We can't continue to have our cities turned into slums because people just don't care. So my suggestion, Chair, is that let's see how government can partner with our people, with our communities, by creating incentives. You know, part of the reality is that maintaining a home sometimes can be a lot more expensive or renovating it than actually building it from scratch. So some people just can't afford to do genuine overhaul of some of these assets. So perhaps we should create a budget line where we don't just hand over 100% funding to homeowners who acquired homes this way, but where we can subsidize a portion to say, if you want to give renovation to your house, do a quotation, let's verify it. Let's see who you are using, whether you're using your own built or you're using a service provider, and we'll subsidize a portion of that renovation cost for the sake of restoring our people's dignity so that they live in decent homes in the same way that we're able to build houses from scratch, especially where, it's low to middle income, the so-called missing middle, so that these assets improve in value, that the neighborhoods themselves overall improve in value, and we have beautiful cities, and we restore the old glory that some of this infrastructure once had. And this goes for all these rundown buildings in inner cities. We really need to find ways of restoring the prestige and the glory that some of these buildings once had. How we structure such a program or project, it's something that I think the white paper needs to address itself on, because we can't keep on building in peripheral areas when the center is not holding. And this whole thing, well, the other extreme is gentrification of inner cities, where some of the areas have been sold to high bidders and has been converted into high value assets to the extent that middle income people can no longer afford to live in those areas. There's two ways of looking at it. Social exclusion on the one extreme, but on the other, the benefits of restoring, as I suggested earlier, of these inner cities. So that's the one idea, Chair. I think I would want that one day, if we were to have a workshop, to really, on the white paper in particular, to really look at issues of this kind. And the issue of public works, I don't know if how it was dealt with, but as I indicated earlier, again, you had this problem where you can't bypass public works, even on minor issues. I know that in our case at Corrections and Justice, we obtained an exemption to say if you want to do construction work of a particular value, you don't have to do it through public works. You can do it on your own. I mean, if we take the Middleburg local seat, for example, we took a 1916 building that was run down, having been occupied by the police for many years. Public Works wanted to charge us 100 million to renovate. We said, no, we'll use offender labor as part of training of our inmates. And we renovated that for 16 million, fraction of what Public Works was going to charge us, So again, the whole issue of, Public Works being the landlord of all of us, and sometimes going the most expensive route to achieve things that could be achieved at a fraction of the cost. But I'm happy with the cabinet intervention where the power of attorney mechanism, I don't know how it works, but anything that works is most welcome, of going around this protracted process of getting Public Works to release land and to release infrastructure that belongs to the state to enable us to advance provision of medium to low cost housing. That is most laudable, because there's a lot of asset held by the state, which, if released this way, can really go a long way towards assisting us to achieve the goal of housing all our people, using different forms of intervention, whether it's full subsidies, whether it's loans. And maybe when we discuss the white paper, we should just get a spectrum of measures from, eliminating informal settlements, programs, all the way to subsidization of own-built sort of infrastructure by our own people taking their own initiatives, and everything else in between, and see what percentage of the budget goes towards which segment in the spectrum that I've just alluded to, so that we have a holistic picture of all the measures and interventions that we are lining up to really, in a big way, including issues of disaster management, where, you deal with anything from people who are living in mud houses, whose homes have been completely, swept away, to affluent suburbs, who sometimes equally suffer the same fate, regardless of how strong their buildings are, their homes are, how well built they are, so that we can see how we're able to address challenges across the socioeconomic strata of society. Maybe let me leave it at that general. And just the last point, I noticed that some of the areas you've identified are essentially rural. The tradition has been, or at least from my own assumption, been putting more emphasis on the urban rollout of human settlements, including peri-urban areas, and doing injustice to rural communities, including those that are under traditional leadership. And I don't know how your negotiations there work in terms of ensuring that traditional authorities collaborate in circumstances where you're putting in infrastructure where they have control for the benefit of the people who live there ultimately. So those are some of the broad sweeping observations, Chair, when it comes to this area that I would want to raise. But maybe the last one is to say that whilst one acknowledges that when it comes to privately owned land and assets, it's the prerogative of the private owners to assert their rights where there has been land invasion issues, etc. But maybe we need to have a full kind of bird's eye view of the range of circumstances, ranging from situations where people simply abandon their assets without selling them off or legally alienating them in some form or another. And then the building is standing there, is becoming a nuisance, is being occupied by criminals, it's creating unsafe environments because of all these drug dealers using these buildings as drug dens and so on, and prostitution and all of that. And then because it's privately owned, you feel you're disempowered to intervene and sort out that nonsense. I am not convinced that in all instances that's what it comes down to. I believe that, especially at the level of local government, there are powers. I mean, the simple fact is that very often these buildings are owing millions in unpaid municipal rates. That alone, I believe, gives the municipality the power to liquidate the building and realize their own owed money, through approaching a court. Even if the owners cannot be found, there are ways in which you can litigate without serving them, or serving them through other means. If they've gone overseas, etc., and you are aware of that, you can do a dictal citation and all those legal processes I don't want to waste time on. But the point here is, Chair, we really need to get to work to rejuvenate our cities and towns and clean them up from these situations I've alluded to, so that we restore their former glory and pride as well. Thank you, Chair.
Hello, Chair.
Thank you very much. The network is becoming a problem here. Can we have?
I hope my talking too much did not affect your network on a lighter note.
Okay, no problem, Honorable Masuta. Can we then get the HDA to respond, and then we'll give it to department, and then the last person being the DM. I'm told the DM has joined us. Let's welcome her. HDA.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I think we note the comments from Honorable Masuta around human settlements opportunities to, improve inner city, the state of our inner cities. Indeed, we are of the view that I think at the level of a precinct, I think the example that I cited in Johannesburg, in Braamfontein, the building that we acquired next to it, there is another building that's owned by Transnet. We will be talking to Transnet to see if we can't, at the level of a precinct, look at the entire precinct and perhaps at the precinct level, utilize human settlements as an instrument to revitalize, certain precincts within certain inner cities. But I think, yeah, we do have an opportunity as human settlements, but that's the role of the municipalities, I think, in the area of private land, ensuring that abandoned buildings are attached, especially in instances where there are unpaid rates and services and utility bills. I mean, that's the space that belongs to municipalities. But the good thing is that I think in terms of the new expropriation bill, one of the reasons or one of the grounds upon which we will be in a position to expropriate land with nil compensation will be in instances where there's abandoned buildings or abandoned land parcels. So we should be able to intervene in that space as the sector, working with the municipalities. I think in the area of developing peri-urban and also rural areas, working with traditional leaders at the level of, because in any event, even at the level of planning, even if it's just basic planning, there is intense, meaningful engagement and collaboration with traditional leaders, because the nature of the work that we do in the rural areas is such that you will not even be able to do anything unless if you collaborate and work very closely with traditional leaders, even if it means building 20 RDP houses or BNG housing units in a traditional space. You still need to go talk to the traditional leader and ensure that there is buy-in from that traditional leader before you can roll out your infrastructure plans. Otherwise, I think the rest of the comments are noted, and I suppose we're going to have to engage further on that in terms of the white paper processes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rapale. Can we then have a department?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you for all the inputs that we have received from the members. They are very helpful and insightful, and we'll take them into consideration. And I think, as Honorable Masuta has indicated, really, there's a lot of proposals that would are being part of the policy positions and proposals on the white paper, which we are engaging with different stakeholders. That also include the aspects that was raised by Honorable Malimaja around really in terms of proactiveness when dealing with land invasions going forward. It's an area that we are engaging in exploring so that we make sure that we have got proactive measures in terms of how we deal with this going forward. And also to the emphasis around what Honorable Masuta is raising in terms of really maintenance of assets, where then we're also looking to saying how then do we also bring in the role players such as civil society organizations, so that we can be able to make sure that we reflect on integration, but also on sustainability, saying yes, once a development has happened, but how then do we sustain both from in terms of the economic value, but also in terms of the aesthetic aspects of the environment that we create forward. So those are the discussions that Honorable Chairperson, we are really engaging on as part of the of the white paper, because at the end of the day, we are seeking to saying we need to have a holistic, improved quality of life in terms of the interventions that we put in as government. With that, Chairperson, I think HDA has responded to all the questions, and we have noted with appreciation all the inputs that we have received from the honorable members. Thank you very much, Chair.
I think the chair said after DDG Nana Mhlongo, I should come in.
Yes,
okay, let me start by greeting you, Chair, and honorable members, and the DGs, the senior officials that are in this meeting, the secretary to Parliament, to the Committee of Parliament. And thank you very much, Chair. I'm from another meeting, another portfolio. I would like to accept the submissions and contribution by Honorable Masuta as consultation for white paper. And it has been extended to 15th March. We will then accept Honorable Masuta. Your advice are very good for us, and if you could just assist us by sending and writing submissions so that they can be added to the white paper. Honorable Makisini raised the concern around the land invasion and lack of bylaws within municipality. I would like to believe that bylaws exist, but might be a challenge in enforcement thereof. We've been talking about this. I think we're now going to the end of sixth administration, which I think we need to enforce the municipalities to make sure that the bylaws are implemented. Generally, the issue of unlawful invasion has been discussed at length, and it is the owner of the property that has an obligation to evict the invaders. The responsibility of the department is when this happens on projects that are ongoing, because sometimes it's like they know when we're going to deliver houses, and they will go and invade as if they have inside information that the land that, as a result, we're saying we don't disclose when we're going to deliver houses, because sometimes it's like they know and they will go and invade that land just to delay us in terms of delivery. So I think
the ongoing, but it has to be done within legislated time frame of 48 hours. It's quite difficult now. When people invade, they know they will go. If you don't invade them, you don't take them out of land within 48 hours, they go to court. So immediately, you must do it before 48 hours. It's quite difficult because sometimes they do it overnight. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done by all of us, not only by Department of Human Services. However, we also need other departments to come on board, especially the security classes, to assist with the illegal land invasion. And it's quite a problem, the illegal land invasion. But I do want to say, because I think this is the last item, Chair, if I'm not mistaken, to thank you and thank the committee for everything that you advise us on in terms of our work as human segments. We want to thank you for that. And thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM and the team. Carissa, can you flag the agenda?
Okay, Chair. That was our last briefing, Chairperson. I'm still looking for the agenda.
Okay, we don't have minutes to look at.
No, Chair, we don't have minutes today.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable members and DM and the team, DG and the team from HDA led by the CEO. Thank you very much for the briefings and thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Malibongwe.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Long live the chair.